What's up folks, Crush SG here, back with yet another Noelle video. Yes, I know this makes what, 6 videos on just Noelle? I mean, it's Noelle. Why not, right? Jokes aside, it's been a busy week for me, but I saw more than a few comments asking for a Noelle battle tips or battle tactics video of sorts. Now this isn't going to be some masterclass Noelle tactics guide, if that's what you guys are expecting. I'm nowhere near skilled enough to be making such videos. Instead, I'll just approach this as kind of like my top 10 battle tips for maining Noelle as a DPS. Okay, now that that's out of the way, here we go. Tip 1. You generally want to only use the first 3 attacks of her normal attack chain in most multi-mob situations. Now, due to the increased hit radius that you get during her burst, AoE damage is Noelle's absolute strong suit. Now, this large AoE gives you a massive positional advantage because you can hit mobs behind you as well if you position yourself properly. Now, how do you stop at only 3 hits? We'll talk about that in a bit. Tip 2. Use the full 4-hit chain only on single targets or tightly grouped packs of mobs. The 4th hit does significantly more damage than the first 3, sometimes up to 50% more, and it hits a small area in front of you, knocking enemies back slightly. Now this is very useful on single targets and as well as for target positioning because you can kind of knock a target back into place if you need. The downside is you get stuck in a really long animation at the end of the 4th attack, which segues into tip 3. Now tip 3 is use your dodge or jump as an animation cancel for her 3rd or 4th attack. The dodge key and the sprint key are basically the same key. So using the dodge or sprint after the 3rd attack will cut the attack chain short and your next hit will start back at 1 basically. And if you do the same thing, you dodge, sprint or jump after the 4th hit, it completely negates that sword in the ground animation at the end of it and you can start straight back at the first hit again. Now this is probably one of the most important tips on the list because it can almost double your damage output if you use it correctly. Okay, on to tip 4. Don't use your E skill if you don't have to, even if you use the Bolite set. Now I see too many folks blindly popping their shields right after using her burst. When you have full HP and you're surrounded by crystallized shields, there's no point using your E skill in that case. I get it. Sometimes it's reflex, it happens to me too, but practice not doing it. This ensures that your shield is available when you need it the most, be it for heals, negating a big incoming damage, or keeping your Bolite buff up when there are no crystals around you. Alright, tip 5 is for those specifically with a C4 and above Noelle. With C4, you can use her shield offensively on densely packed mobs. Popping your shield strategically while in a dense pack deals a nice chunk of damage to that entire pack. Now a note when using the shield offensively, as far as I can tell, the explosion damage caused by your shield snapshots your sheet attack at the point of casting the shield, not at the point of explosion. So what this basically means is if you want to use your shield offensively, use her burst first, then use the shield. If you use the shield first, before using her burst, you're not going to gain that extra attack that you gain from her burst because the shield damage snapshots. Okay, on to tip 6. If you need a large amount of healing, use charge attacks to heal yourself, not normal attacks. Charge attacks hit a lot faster than normal attacks, so it'll heal you up a lot faster. You know, most of the time you pop her E skill, you may not have the full duration because you're constantly taking damage, and if you just use normal attacks, 1 hit, 2 hit, 3 hits, you might not get healed up as much as you would like. So if you need some emergency healing, pop the shield, straight away go into a charge attack spin, you'll heal yourself up much quicker. Now this is in contrast to tip 7, which is, though it may seem counterintuitive, you should generally not use her charge attack for damage. Now unlike heals, which recover a fixed amount of HP per hit regardless of attack type, charge attacks deal significantly less damage per hit than normal attacks, and while you do hit faster, the initial and end animations of the charge attack make it much less efficient and deal less damage overall. Now, and that's even with C2. And of course, there are also lots of scenarios and content where you won't want to be consuming stamina if possible, because you want to reserve the stamina for being able to dodge and sprint around and avoid stuff. Alright, next we have tip 8. Avoid tunneling into only one mob unless absolutely necessary. As mentioned before, Noelle's strength is her AoE capabilities and her burst uptime is limited. You want to deal as much damage as possible to as many targets as possible. So be patient, group up the mobs as best you can first before popping your burst and going ham. Tip 9. Likewise, don't tunnel on Noelle during her burst. Sometimes you have teammates whose skills are or burst skills are up. Don't be afraid to swap and use them strategically if you have to. And we have tip 10. Now this is related to tip 9 but applies more generally. As most of you already know, using skills spawns energy orbs that correspond to the character's element. Absorbing these orbs recovers a given amount of energy. Now this also recovers energy for your teammates, but to a lesser extent if the elements don't match. Now what a lot of folks don't realize is that the character which receives the orbs gains more energy from them as well, regardless of the element. So always try to swap back to Noelle immediately after using a teammate's skill, so that she is the one who receives the orbs. As you can see in the clip, if I use Ningguang's E skill without swapping to Noelle, Noelle does gain a small bit of energy. Now this is with me swapping immediately, so Noelle is the one receiving the orbs. You see the difference? The same applies to other elements too. This is Zhongyun without swapping. This is the amount of energy Noelle gains. Now this is him again with an immediate swap. You see the difference? So remember guys, always swap to Noelle immediately after using a teammate's skill. It just helps with energy regen. Alright, lastly, I have a bonus tip that was actually brought to my attention by a few of you in the comments section. I'll give the tip first and then I'll explain it after that. Tip 11. For those who have a random Favonius weapon lying around that one or more of your support characters could use, consider giving it a shot. Throw some basic crit gear on that character as well, because you know Favonius Greatsword requires crits. And it should help Noelle's burst uptime massively without you actually having to give up your harder hitting weapons on Noelle herself. Now of course, you need to remember to actually swap to these support characters to use their skills every 12 seconds or so, or depending on the refined rank of your Favonius weapon. And here's how I discovered this. During my initial tests of the Favonius Greatsword, I had only used it on Noelle herself and focused only on the energy gains for Noelle alone. However, a few of you pointed out that the mechanic actually recovers energy for the rest of the team as well, something that I hadn't considered at that point. Now with that in mind, I threw the Greatsword on Zhongyun, who is my cryo for 12-3, and it ended up transforming him into an absolute beast of an energy battery for Noelle. So much so that I pretty much had my burst up all the time on 12-3, and those who have attempted 12-3 with a Noelle main would know that this is not easy to achieve because the floor debuff constantly drains your energy. Now I eventually ended up clearing the Noelle side of 12-3 over 2 minutes faster than I've ever cleared it before. And this bought the much needed time for my Razor team subsequently to secure the clear. So yeah, thanks for the tips folks, you got me that 12-3 clear. And I guess now begins the perfectionist journey of 3-starring everything. Wish me luck. Alright folks, that pretty much covers any tips I can think of for Noelle. Sorry if I missed anything, there's only that much my tiny brain can retain. For more info, if you haven't, watch the individual parts of my DPS series. The link to the playlist should be somewhere on screen at some point. As always, thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't, share my videos with your friends if you learned something, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care guys.